as architects, we don't know everything, and the voices that are around us have value. So being open to other people, being there to provide insight is incredibly important, something that I'll take with me for the rest of my career.
So welcome, Derreck Travis. We are happy to have you on the Design Hive today to talk about the Center for Clean Energy and Automotive Innovation at Vancouver Community College and a few other things related to CTE design. Can you tell us where you work, what kind of projects you work on, and maybe tell us what you do for fun as well?
Sounds great. Thanks for having me on. Very much appreciate it. I'm an architect based out of the Vancouver, BC office. Been with Stantec for a little bit over a decade. What I do, I have been working on projects in all sorts of sectors in my time here, including commercial, industrial, defense, airports, healthcare, civic. But my focus is higher education. I think that's where my passion lies. And that's where the primary experience also resides. I enjoy all sorts of outdoor activities. I snowboard, surf, camp, whatever can get me outside, I'll do it for the most part. And that's me.
Excellent. So today we're going to talk a little bit about design for career and technical education. I've written about this before for Stantec, but it's been a long time, and I know things have changed. Can you tell us a little bit just about what's sort of happening in that world of career and technical education? What's driving those schools? What are they thinking about? And how is design trying to respond to changes in career and technical education?
Yeah. So from the outside looking in, we get to sort of speak to and be part of a lot of different institutions. So obviously from the outside, but you see those trends at high level. The biggest change that I'm seeing is sort of the general recognition that it's a legitimate pathway to a great career. And so with it, students are drawn. So they're drawn to CTE because of that. The type of education is so much different than a traditional university, where it's sort of classroom and theory based. And I think there's a realization that not all students excel in that environment. So opening up a different path for the hands-on, broad range sort of experiential learning for all sorts of different people and learning styles is important. It's important to a lot of people, and it's a versatile tool set to then take into their career path. It provides a lot of opportunity for people, and that opportunity has elevated its popularity. It's super dynamic. Every year, as technology pushes forward, programs are constantly being developed to address the needs of employment markets and adapting to those new technologies. So where a traditional university setting can be quite stagnant and stale, and these ones have far more dynamicism behind it.
Excellent. And so we've just been talking about CTE. How has higher education design itself changed? What are some of the trends in higher ed that are influencing what you do, and also what's happening in the classroom?
I feel like there's been a monumental shift since COVID. I feel like when you start looking at how classrooms and education is being delivered, it also has felt a monumental change since COVID. There's a much greater reliance on technology in classrooms. Classrooms virtual attendance is status quo nowadays, and with it, classrooms have developed infrastructure to support that with cameras. There's a lot more wireless infrastructure, especially with sort of where next generations of Wi-Fi are going, and really to future-proof for future developments in technology, and what educational opportunities come out of that. We know AI is becoming very popular in the classroom, and with it, the classrooms are getting equipped for that kind of computing requirements. So that's the biggest thing that I see, and even in conversations with owners and institutions, that's front of mind for everybody. Another big hot topic item is how money is utilized. I know throughout Canada and the US, at least, there's a huge conversation going on to make your money go further because of escalation, cost of construction, everything under the sun. And so with it, every dollar spent needs to go to the most important place and take you the furthest it can go. Within a lot of the new buildings that we're doing, but also renovations, there's a greater demand on shared resources to maximize efficiency. So with it, both from the faculty standpoint, but also from student experience, sort of print labs, stuff like that, as much sharing as possible is sort of where I think a lot of the places that can be shared are looking to share it as much as possible. Another one, renovations. I think renovations are pretty front of mind right now, and that's mostly because there was a pretty big push of growth. I think over the last decade or even 2 decades, it really did feel like everything was moving so fast and build. But now that the dollar has to stretch a bit further, looking back to see what infrastructure you have and converting and adapting anything that's underutilized is what we're seeing a lot of right now. A good example and that we've been speaking to other clients about is the library spaces. Students generally don't use libraries the same way as they used to. The idea of stacks is going digital. Also, taking out books is far less prevalent. So once you take out the stacks, what does a library become? What does it look like? What does that space allow institutions to do? And so with it, in the Center for Clean Energy, we had this conversation, and so they provided some future ideas of what they wanted the space to be when the stacks leave. And with it, in their case, they were looking to convert that space into things like audio booths, spaces for sort of incubation spaces where you can take out technology from the library itself, go into a space, have it plug in such things as like portable laser cutters or portable CNCs in order to prototype sort of within that environment and have people on hand to walk you through the use of that technology.
Very cool.
Yeah, it's a very cool time, I think, to be in higher ed with the sort of changing landscape and sort of changing technology is changing everything in everybody's homes and lives.
So let's pivot over to the Center for Clean Energy and Automobile Innovation. What was this client like? What was the goals? What were its goals with this project? Kind of give us the description of what they wanted to do and how much influence did we have on sort of shaping the new building that they're putting on campus?
Yeah. So Vancouver Community College is a client, great client. They're a relatively small institution in the region. They're obviously a community college, so they don't have a huge endowment to pull out of to build huge buildings on the regular. So this is really their flagship building for a future redevelopment and sort of rebranding the statement for their institution to create that brand identity and to draw students in with a modern, clean, cutting edge facility to learn in. Students spend so much time on campus with their friends learning, and so with it, facilities to entice them, make them feel comfortable, included is very important. And so it is a facility that will ultimately help transform their entire campus. It's about 400,000 square feet, 8 stories. It's LEED Gold. It's very energy efficient. And really what it is it's a co-location of currently diverse programs across their campuses. So bringing everything together that they can share resources and have overlaps and symmetries in order to create sort of this tech design centric hub for the campus. So with it, the School of Trades, Technology, and Design is going to be all consolidated in one spot in order to sort of provide a learning environment that you can leverage all three in one spot. How what's created in the cross-pollination when those three are brought together when it comes to industry and sort of utilizing each other's knowledge to create a healthy but forward-thinking sort of programs student body. Specifically, I guess getting into the nuts and bolts of the project, it's the Center for Clean Energy and Automobile Innovation, and with it, those are the two sort of primary occupiers of the space. In terms of automobile innovation, the combustion engine isn't going to be disappearing anytime soon, but with sort of new technology, policy, regulatory initiatives, and the way the consumer base has sort of really gravitated towards electric and hybrid vehicles lately, there's a increasing demand for students to sort of be trained in them in those kind of vehicles. And so with it, this building really does focus on sort of the intertwining of the automobile, clean energy automobiles and alternative technologies with the clean energy. So looking at battery power and the symmetries between the electronic components between all the different new technologies out there. So going beyond just the automobile, they're also doing sort of heavy duty machinery, heavy duty trucks, clean energy transportation. So like subways and other transportation methods. And it's really going to sort of be a home for all sorts of clean technology moving forward.
Very cool. And what were some of the sort of design ideas we brought to the project, or the themes we wanted to work into this new building?
Yeah. So this project was a joint effort with the Michigan office. And so the Michigan office came in, worked with us to sort of orient the identity of the project in terms of programming opportunities. We shared ideas of sort of major trends that are happening not only throughout the US, but also in Canada, and ultimately leveraged sort of that North American knowledge to sort of create an environment that was able to differentiate VCC from other institutions. One of the big ideas that really stood out for everybody was the idea of education on display. Large windows were integrated into classrooms and collaboration spaces just to allow students to look in and see what was happening, as these classrooms are going to be tech heavy. There's AR, VR studios. There's also a lot of tech out of the library that can sort of move to collaboration spaces. And with it, making sure students get to see what's happening, public gets to see what's happening, and understand that education isn't delivered the way it used to be. It's delivered in technology, and just like the rest of our world, right? Another kind of really cool concept that was brought in, we really looked across the site to see what opportunities existed. It does have a slight grade difference across. And with it, we proposed a large amount of of glazing at grade that looks down into the clean energy and automobile spaces, much like an operation theater as of old, where you got to see sort of the doctor working and sort of spaces to look and view from above. But with it, clean energy technology is still quite new and it's foreign to a lot of people. So having that visibility from street level down in, looking at how EVs and hydrogen vehicles are different, was very important, and it connects people to the programs at VCC, but also to the new technologies that are in vehicles.
Tell me about sort of how culture and heritage became part of this project. Were there opportunities to incorporate cultural elements in the design for the VCC project? And is that something that you think is part of CTE design, or maybe more just particular to this project?
Yeah, it's a great question. This project itself had, even at the RFP stage, a heavy reliance on indigeneity. So bringing the sort of indigenous communities to the table to help define their campus, define this project, and allow them to be heard in how this building developed. I think it's something that is special to VCC because VCC has a proportionally significant Indigenous student body compared to other institutions. And they're very proud of that. And so with it, that became an impetus to sort of really put it at the forefront from the onset. When it comes to the greater CTE, I mean, personal opinion is that there's a space at the table for everybody. Everybody should have a voice and should be able to be heard. So if there's a desire to be heard, I think that's important. I learned a lot through this process and going through this process with VCC. And to your original question is how it manifested itself in the design. Early collaboration with the institution and the host nations really sort of created a framework for us to be able to incorporate indigeneity throughout this project, and not only this project but also their future campuses and branding. We started the project with it was called the Knowledge Keepers. So elders and a chief were able to come, and we sat in a room and we listened. So I think it was probably 95% listening and 5% sort of asking questions. And with it, you got a good understanding of what the site was before. They walked through generations of history, which have since been covered up and lost just by growth and progress and everything. And with it, there was a request that we daylight some of the histories that were lost. And so with it, in our case, in this project's case, there was a body of water that was very significant, both spiritually and from a sort of sustenance point of view from hunting and fishing. And so with it, there was a desire to bring that back to the forefront, daylight it, tell people that the land they were walking on was once a very important spiritual and physical place for the local First Nations.
Great. And I think you might have mentioned in one of our other conversations that the form of the building has sort of a cultural reference point. I hope I'm right about that. Not in a literal way, but in a more subtle, abstract ways. Is that true? Am I on the right track there?
Yeah, that's totally correct. So the idea that there was a body of water where this building is located. There was the idea that the canoe, an idea of canoes are a very important symbol for Indigenous cultures all over the world. And so with it, shared stories of navigating the local waters in a Coast Salish canoe. And so with it, the idea of the canoe being not only sort of a vessel for transportation, which has a nice symmetry with the clean energy and automobile sort of identity of the building, but it was also a very technologically advanced vessel that was developed through generations and design. So it was a great representation of what the building is. And so with it, the idea that the building represents a canoe was one of the very first moves that the team made. So we sort of identified a party and really tried to leverage it and bake it into planning. It's an abstracted version of a canoe, like you said. So when you look at it, it's a black object that floats on top of a very transparent glazed surface, and that glazing has a very slight curve to it, which is sort of representing sort of movement and the wake of the canoe moving forward. You wouldn't necessarily see that when you look at it, but most people, once they hear it and they sort of get to know the site history through communication and signage and narrative, it resonates. And so with it, it really resonated with the host nations, and it resonates with many people that hear about it. And the overall outcome has been very positive.
Amazing. Yeah, be excited to see that when it's complete. So switching gears, another project that I know you've worked on that I'm quite familiar with is the UNBC Wood Innovation Research Lab. And I thought we'd mention that as a different kind of project, but you had earlier we were talking and you had a really interesting way of connecting this with CTE. It's, obviously not strictly a CTE project, but there is sort of a relationship there in a broader sense. Could you tell me about that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. The Wood Innovation Research Laboratory is a passive house building. It was the first passive house for an educational client in North America. It's certified through the sort of European standard, and one of the most airtightest buildings in all of the world, to be honest. So it was a great feat when it was completed. Especially considering it's in sort of Prince George, British Columbia, and for listeners across North America, it's very far north, gets very, very cold. So the walls are about a half meter thick of insulation, which is quite intense. But with it, it proves that sort of this sort of energy standard of passive house can be achieved anywhere. The symmetries with CTE, the innovation laboratory is a means for new products, building materials, and building techniques to work its way from the forests and production locations in North America, where a lot of the actual softwood lumber comes from. They test out new products, what their characteristics are before they come to market. So really the work that they're doing in that laboratory to test the breaking points and connections and stuff like that will work its way to the broader market in North America. And so it will influence sort of some of these sort of trades and technology programs, and really pushing the envelope on what they'll see in their curriculums downstream in the years to come.
Great. And from my point of view, this has been sort of an influential project. Why do you think that was, and what sort of made it unique that made it something that made it the kind of building that we would sort of shine a light on?
Yeah, it has gotten a lot of praise for. It's a very modest building. It's only 10,000 square feet ish. When the RFP came out, I think ultimately 2 teams pursued the project or something. because it was complex. It had never been done before. It had very tight parameters in terms of schedule, cost, has a high risk of failure since you were contractually obligated to deliver it in Passive House. And at that point, 2017, I think, is when it kind of started. The Passive House products and market in North America was so limited. It's developed quite a lot. So now it's quite off the shelf. Products can be sort of procured, and it's not that big of a deal anymore. But at that point, it was very, very, very innovative and did push the mold. It had about a 1-year design and construction timeline for that 10,000 square feet. And it had a tight budget, about $4 million, if I remember correctly. But it really did take a team effort. It leveraged the entire team, from the owner, the contractor, local trades, to let us know what products they could get up in that remote zone, what labor they had up there in order to successfully deliver the project. And obviously it got completed on time, on budget, did everything it needed to do in terms of Passive House certification. And with it has been a sort of a model for others to follow throughout North America. One of the things that really came out of that local experience was the modularity. What could the local market deliver in the timeframes we needed to deliver it in? And as you know, building products are delivered from all over North America and the world, and each one of them has timelines, and those timelines didn't work with what we were working with on that project. So with it, the local trades came to the table, and they were working with us on designs, what they could do. Could we get a meter of insulation or a half meter of insulation in there? Could we get this? Could we get that? And we really found a path forward based on communication and, again, bringing people to the table.
And this, the building was kind of in the news again just a couple of years ago. Can you tell me about that?
Oh yeah, that one. So when the project was built, it was an abandoned building right next door. So in the time since, I think this was 2024, that building had somebody break in and try to steal some of the copper gas lines. So with it, they took a piece of the copper gas line, and the building slowly filled with gas and ignited. And that building was about 5 feet away from the Passive House building, and it exploded. I think windows up to 4 blocks away were broken, from what I was told. The building was leveled, not barely anything left of it. The hole in the ground where it was, flames, and the Wood Innovation Research Laboratory was 5-6 feet away from it, withstood the explosion and withstood the flames. So it stood as a test of resiliency. Most of the resiliency came from the use of floor trusses as the prefabricated wall panels, modular wall panels. So those floor trusses took the explosion and with minimal damage. And then the modularity allowed for whatever damage there was on a few of the exterior panels to just be replaced, reclad, and it's standing right now, and a testament to a second life that it was able to have because of unknown at the time benefits of the systems we used.
Yeah, and far more resilient probably than anyone would have predicted. That you usually are not testing things to have the next door building just explode.
You try not.
That would be a tough test to pass. So that's incredible.
First for me.
Yeah. So, and just to wrap it up on the Wood Innovation Research Lab, do you feel like there are things that came out of that you still use today, like lessons that you learned? You're talking about the sort of local, getting the local trades involved, but are there things that came out of that project that sort of maybe you brought even into the VCC project, or maybe other sort of buildings where sustainability and tight envelope are the priorities?
I've learned a lot on that project. It's the first project that I worked on in sort of an integrated project delivery kind of method. And so with it, the importance of communication and bringing people to the table, of course, throughout my projects, I've taken that as sort of, as architects, we don't know everything, and the voices that are around us have value. So being open to other people, being there to provide insight is incredibly important, something that I'll take with me for the rest of my career. In terms of Passive House and detailing, going into that project it seems like a scary. Passive House it far exceeds what you're doing out in the world, and really being part of that project demystified what sustainable design, what thoughtful detailing can do for you. I think ultimately Passive House requires slightly more attention to detail and product selection, but really does utilize the best practice principles that we do on every project. It's just being cognizant and walking through those as a team, and being aware that detailing matters. And I think all those little small micro improvements throughout of a project in terms of thermal envelope, thermal bridging, being smart with membranes, all that stuff is incredibly important in Passive House, and it should be incredibly important on all the projects we do. So that's something that I've taken with me forever, and sort of really letting people know that Passive House isn't all that crazy. It's just careful thought and attention but anybody can do it.
Great. Yeah. Spreading the word. So I'm going to let you go. You've given us so much interesting perspective here, but I want to find out a little bit about what gets you up in the morning. What do you get excited about in terms of your practice? But what are the aspects of it that you draw satisfaction from, that keep you engaged?
I like to connect the dots. I like to be part of teams that really are sort of well-oiled machines, and being that glue that sort of keeps people talking and moving forward is what I like to see people do well, do good work, do well, and grow. And so with it, being that facilitator to make sure people are moving forward, connecting the dots with everybody, everything, so that projects are delivered on time, on budget, and that people are happy doing it. That's really what I've found makes me tick. The projects themselves are a result of a team. And so with it, team construction and team health is what sort of I live for in my work.
Fantastic. Well, Derreck, I will say that you've been a good team player during this whole conversation today. So I appreciate that. Yeah, we formed a temporary team.
Yeah.
But thanks so much for coming on the Design Hive, and we hope to have you back sometime soon. We'll be keeping an eye on everything you're working on, and look forward to seeing this VCC project come to life.
I'll keep you in the know as it moves forward.
All right. Have a great day, Derreck. Talk soon.
You too. Thank you.